According to Dr. Jack Shunkoff, the director of the Center of Early Development at Harvard University, 90% of our brains developed in the first, 0 years to 6 years old. That leaves 5% that happens between 3 and 5, and then the 85%, the maximum amount, happens in the time before that. That sounds like an incredible amount of growth in a very short period of time. He also says that the experiences that we have in these early years shape us to be who we are for the rest of our lives. And so, if the research is pointing this way, shouldn't we be focusing a little more in our early years? Imagine if you are developing 85% of your brain between 0 and 3. That means you are 85% developed before you even know how to tie your shoelaces. There is a lot of research and money and funding being poured into researching our early memories. Research says that some people can recall as early as 2.5 years old, and this kind of memory that stays in your brain shaped you for a reason. Now, I want us to do a little exercise and close our eyes. And I want you to go back to the earliest memory you can get. How does that memory make you feel? Is it a happy one? Is it a sad one? Is it something that you'd rather not remember? Now open your eyes. Our early memories are super important. Sometimes we even visit a therapist, and the first thing they ask is, "Tell me about your childhood." And there's a reason behind that. My earliest memory is when I was 4 years old. I remember holding onto my mother's leg as she was leaving for work because I did not want to stay with a nanny she had just hired. What my mother did not know is that this woman was torturing me when she was at work. She would wait for my mother to leave, and she would use a soiled diaper from the night before to suffocate me until I passed out. Now, when my mother found out, she obviously fired her and we moved on. But for years, I struggled with the memories of this abuse and what it did to me as a person. You see, I believe it is easier if we focus on those early years and help human beings become emotionally healthy than try to fix whatever happens when we become adults. It's incredible how those memories affect us because sometimes we see people outside struggling with certain things and we might point our fingers at them. But when I meet this kind of people, I always wonder, what was their childhood like? Did their parents condition their love? Did they grow up in a physically, emotionally safe environment? I didn't. I know my mother wanted to do better, but there were things that were outside of her control. You see, my mother worked in one of the most important government branches in the Dominican Republic. She was a hydraulics engineer, and she ensured that clean water got to everybody and brave rivers didn't destroy anyone's home. But it was a difficult field for her for being just that, a woman. And since my parents divorced, she had to rely on nanny and housekeepers that came from the countryside so she could feed me and take care of us. As a result, we ended up when I was only 8 months with a wonderful person named Carmela. Carmela had 10 siblings in Tamboril and was a strong, amazing woman. She put me on a sleeping schedule. She taught me nursery rhymes. She even told my mother she was not holding me properly on her interview, which is why she got hired. My mom was like, "Oh my God, yes." And from ages 0 to 3, I had love, affection, appreciation, and someone who poured themselves onto me, genuinely. Unfortunately, there was a recession, and my mother lost her job. And kindly, she helped Carmela get a job at another engineer's house. When my mother finally got things together and she requested Carmela came back, the employer told my mom that she'd rather not and begged her not to take her back. What came after was a crusade of incompetent caregivers who either tried to kill me on purpose or almost let me die out of inexperience and accident. Now, if we know all of this about memories and early years and that 85%, then why aren't we investing more on those times? I opened my own childcare center in New York City, and sometimes parents call me, and when I tell them how much I charge, they tell me, "Are you insane for taking care of an infant? That's just too much money." But the thing is that with my experience, the one from my life and the one from my bachelor's, master's, and PhD, I understand what a child needs in order to thrive. I design our curriculums, our schedules, and I train my staff with the children in mind. So I know why I'm charging what I'm charging. I know what children need. I know what an overworked, stressed, or unhappy caregiver can do to a child. I lived it. I've seen it. Nobody, no baby, no toddler, and not school-age child deserves that. We should be given the best opportunities we can in the most important years of our life. And although I went through all of this, I like to think of myself as a kintsugi person. For those of you who don't know what kintsugi is the Japanese art of putting together broken pottery with gold lacquer. Although after broken and put together, it is considered more valuable and precious. That's how I choose to see myself. You see, from my brokenness came this desire to just bring awareness and help all the children I possibly can. We're all broken somehow. That's just how the light comes in. And I believe that that should be our inspiration to help the future generations. Having a good start in life determines the future we're going to get. It is so important. Remember, my mother would take a branch and say, "Break it." And then she would say, "Now go outside and break the tree." Impossible. So it's like, so now I teach you and I nurture you and I raise you. So when you grow, you can do the same for your children. So after I've spoken all of this stuff, if we go back and look at the numbers in New York City, for example, the average cost of a childcare center for an infant last year was $16,000. But then an Ivy League university was charging $78,000 for the year. The research is telling us that the early years matter so much more. So why are we not seeing this reflected on the way we're paying for it, on the quality of care? If an Ivy League university right now accepted your child into their program, wouldn't you find a way to pay for it? I mean, you would totally be outraged by the prices, but that's not the point. The point is that you'll find a way to pay for this opportunity because of the doors it would open for your child that otherwise wouldn't be available. Well, what if I told you that the university is not the place where your child is going to become and be? They are who they are. And so when they get to college, no offense, they already have a set form of skills and values that come from those first 6 years. So I'm telling you that if we focus on these early years, that future that I hear so many people talking about that they want to see can be a reality. And it all comes down to us focusing on what truly matters. Thank you so much.